Welcome back to another high-level match of StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a best-of-5 series of Protoss versus Terran, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on Royal Blood. Actually, no, Babylon, spawning right here. I was gonna say, the wood texture on Royal Blood is a little bit more elegant, a little bit more refined. Spawning right here in the top left-hand corner, playing with the red Protoss pieces. From the United States of America, we have Astrea, and his opponent from South Korea, playing right here with the blue Terran SCVs. He goes by the name of GuMiho. GuMiho versus Astrea. Now these two, they usually play very creative, very aggressive strategies. Although recently I've been seeing Astrea go for like Nexus first and like a third base at like the 3-minute mark and all that. So maybe it's economically aggressive. Maybe that's a decent way to describe it. Anyways, it's gonna be Mr. GuMiho starting off this game, I think, with a proxy factory. He doesn't have the money for it just yet, but it's coming up right about right now. 150 minerals, 100 gas, boom. There we go, alrighty. We've seen this build, of course, many times before, where you usually pump out, well, for example, a bunch of Widow Mines or a bunch of Hellions, and you proxy the starport as well. You build a medevac and then you boost it straight into the opponent's main base. And at this point in the game, it's difficult for Protoss to scout, especially when you don't scout, especially when you don't send out anything. This is pretty greedy here from Astrea. I have seen guys like Sentry first. This is what I'm talking about. This is actually, I wonder if GuMiho has seen some of the builds that Astrea has been playing lately. I mean, I think I actually casted a series between these two not that long ago, so he's definitely seen at least some of the games. But this is certainly not the standard, and certainly considered to be a little bit on the greedier end of things. Hero, for example, sometimes skips out on that probe scout early on, which is just very dangerous when you don't really know exactly what you're playing against. This Reaper shows up at the normal time. It's okay, huh? It's a proxy tech lab over here. We'll have to see exactly what. Oh, okay, sure. We're gonna make a siege tank. I mean, it's gonna be aggression regardless. You can still drop siege tank to your opponent's base as well, of course, but generally speaking, not the preferred tool. It's gonna be a robo facility right now on the back of this as well. So unless the hallucinated Phoenix scouts the proxy, I don't think Astrea is gonna be able to figure out what he's playing against at all. So this is gonna be the first time that he sees Jimmy running around. This is the first time he will see indeed exactly what is going on over here on the other side of the map, and he will see that he's going up against a one-base Terran. I mean, that is a big tell, but does he have the tools at his disposal right now to defend against this? Alright, so here's the medevac coming up. Second siege tank just about to pop out of that factory as well. Alright, what exactly are we gonna do, Gumi? Obviously, you do get high ground vision. Yeah, okay, I was gonna say, even if you put like the siege tank over here on the low ground, that is still a good spot. You can even put the siege tank over here on that little, I always call this like the Reaper jump up ledge, but maybe that's not what it is. Oh, an unsieged tank. Beautiful grenade right there. Very elegant shooting by that Reaper. Ooh, okay. Now this is gonna be really tricky to break. That being said though, Astrea right now going for the Immortal into Prism. Whenever I see an Immortal into Prism, I always think of like the Haas days when he used to build this on the other side of the map. Obviously you can juggle your Immortal in a Prism against the opponent's stuff, but that Viking right now that came after, oh, I love this so much. Look at this full-on elevator. Alright, anyways, the Viking here is going to be excellent at shooting away at that Warp Prism. The fact that he decided to pick up a landed Viking with a medevac, I don't know, that cracks me up. There's a little bit of irony there, that a Viking needs picking up by a medevac. I find that very funny. And you know what? This super greedy build right here from Astrea may very well bite him in the butt a little bit. Yeah, he didn't find out what he was playing against until a little bit too late, I think, right? I mean, he's playing against one of the craziest Terran players in the book, and he decides to go for one of the greediest builds ever, skips the early game scout as well, and I think he's just about to get punished for it. Now, of course, this is Gumi going for a complete all-in. It's not like he can really transition away from this, but he is starting to break the main base here of the Protoss player. We're gonna elevator even more units towards the high ground. It's a bit of a strange elevator, because, you know, it's like a staircase elevator. A little bit strange. Yeah, no, this Immortal would have to get a lot of work done, but at this point there's Marines, there's multiple Vikings, probes are already starting to die. Couple Marines here, maybe a little bit overly ambitious, but there's really no way for Astrea to clean this up, so GuMiho wins game number 1. Game number 2, we find ourselves on Gresvin. GuMiho sends out an SCV right at the very start of the game this time around. Could just be for an engineering bay block. Nope, it's not gonna be for an engineering bay block. I mean, maybe he's considering doing that as well. At the very least, this time around, Astrea will see that something is a little bit fishy here, but he's decided to go for an SCV scout over here right at the very start of the game, while simultaneously also going for a proxy. This is not really something that Astrea is going to expect, I don't think. At the very least, not until he sees that there's a whole lot of nothing going on inside of the main base here of the Terran player. Alright, so now he pops up to the high ground and he will see a whole lot of nothing. Kijkwijzer over here will confirm, though, that there is, well, some sort of tech, right? It's not going to be, Command Center first will be a little bit funky, but it would definitely be one of the options. This is going to be a tricky game right here for Astrea to read, because he did see the scouting worker, but I guess at this point, it doesn't really matter all too much here for Astrea. He now realizes, yep, indeed, I have to deal with an engineering bay. Super annoying, but he sees it early enough. Are we going to go for a zealot still at this point? No, instead we're going to pull additional probes. Alright, gets the SCV kill. That's kind of nice, actually. In the meantime, though, that Reaper is going to be coming up here very soon. I do believe, though, that the Reaper, yeah, I was going to say, it's not going to arrive before it could start working on those probes. So 4 probes turns out to be a pretty solid number. But of course, that's a lot of lost mining time and a relatively short amount of, or small rather, amount of resources lost right there for the Terran player. The Reaper, as a matter of fact, has been rallied backwards. So even though the barracks is in the middle of the map, he wants to get rid of that scouting probe that's currently in his main base. So already, right from the start, this game is very weird, right? When 2 players have almost like mastered the game, playing these... What? Okay, I thought we were gonna make the flight of shame back into the main base, but instead we're gonna just lift up the barracks and... Okay, at this point Astrea should 100% realize that this was a proxied barracks, but since he sees the timing of the Reaper and the fact that it wasn't produced close to home, he probably isn't all too concerned about it, but at the same time, GuMiho's like, you know what? The entire map is my main base. The entire map is my oyster. Mom told me I could use the entire map, so I'm just gonna go ahead and build a barracks right over here. In the meantime, on the other side, we have our Protoss player. Yeah, just happily huddled together here. Everybody is close. Everybody is, yeah, very tightly connected here, right? And in the meantime, GuMiho, he favors individuals, right? Individualism is big right here in the Terran Dominion, at the very least when GuMiho is in charge. Alright, so it is gonna be a concussive shell attack on the back of this. Command Center was, of course, built. This is something that Astrea did see with the scouting worker too, so he does but this is gonna hit so late now. How in the world is this gonna work out? I actually am not sure. Sadly here for Astrea, it's a Twilight Council follow-up. Obviously on this map, the Twilight Council is a very popular start for Protoss, but it definitely, I mean, imagine that this could have been a Stargate opener, right? Like, imagine if this was a Stargate opener. There's literally no Terran unit out at this point in the game that can shoot up. It's a bit of a problem. Maybe Marauders can lie on their backs and then shoot those concussive grenades into the air, but don't think it's gonna happen. Alright, well, he'll be happy to know, GuMiho that is, that indeed, oh god, it's gonna be Stalkers right here, and this is a recipe for disaster once again. GuMiho taking chances, realizing exactly the playstyle that the opponent likes to go for. Now don't get me wrong, this is a lot more of a conventional game right here for Astrea, but he's in a world of trouble. He did not expect this whatsoever after that proxy Reaper. And I honestly can't blame him. This hits later than it ordinarily would, so because of that it almost feels like a bit of an anti-timing, right? Like it feels like a suboptimal version of this strategy, but he gets so much damage done with it. That's another Stalker going down, and believe it or not, when you're going for a Blink Stalker opener, that's one of the units you need. I know, crazy. Can I say any more obvious things? When you're losing economy, you will have less money. I know, crazy. I think this is basically game over, guys. I mean, he can try and stabilize. The problem is, in the meantime, this is not like the previous game. There's already a command center on the low ground as well, and that alien is still going to town. Oi, oi, oi. Yeah, you can box him in, sure. Small little mental victory right there for Astrea, I suppose, but he is in so much trouble. That Reaper's still going around. 11 confirmed kills. Astrea taps out, and it's Gumi who wins game number 2. Okay, Astrea is better than Bruised. He's tried a greedy opener, didn't work. Tried a normal opener, didn't work. What do you do now? I think that's called the GuMiho effect. If somebody could maybe make an Urban Dictionary entry for the GuMiho effect, that would be amazing. Playing a series against Gumi really does seem like it would suck though. Like if you win game number 1, I think you probably win the vast majority of the times. But when you do lose game number 1 to something silly, something a little uncommon, suddenly you find yourself in game number 2 and then you lose against something. It's tricky, man. Momentum is a real thing in StarCraft 2 when you're playing a series, and this is gonna be an uphill battle right here for Astrea for sure. Because what in the world do you do right now? Well, GuMiho has not decided to go for a command center first. I was just thinking about that. It would be kind of cool if he decided to go for a super greedy economical opener this time around. Instead, we've got ourselves that double refinery start right here inside of the main base. Now, by the way, if you guys are new here, I upload new videos pretty much every single day. Whenever I look at the YouTube analytics, which I really try not to do all too often. Let me try and guilt trip you a little bit, okay? Whenever I look at my YouTube analytics, I do see that about half of the people that watch my videos are subscribed, which means that you could help boost my ego by subscribing to this channel. And if, like, we get another 500,000 subs or so, I will get the golden YouTube play button, okay? So if you want to help me with my ego and get notified as soon as new videos go live, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Maybe hit the little bell icon as well so you get notified as soon as new videos go live. I usually post videos Monday through Saturday. Sometimes I skip a day. Sometimes I do post on Sundays as well. But I usually try to post about 6 days a week. Usually at 4 p.m. in the Netherlands. I think that's early in the morning in the States. Sometime in the middle of the night in Australia. But, you know, posting anything at an Australian-friendly time is kind of tricky. Although I guess the Australians can have breakfast with a video. Does that work? Some of the videos are like an hour long though, so... Maybe they have a lot of time for breakfast over there. Or what they probably call it, brekkie. Something like that. Anyways, we've got ourselves a factory inside of the main base. Reactor on the follow-up as well. We're on the back of this here for Gumi. So everything here is pretty normal. Alright, Astrea. This will be the moment to get back into the swing of things, okay? Don't let this man mentally defeat you. Good start. Shoot that bad boy. Oh, we're gonna even pull the probes. Ooh, we're trying to go for the mental win once again. There is a second adept popping out in a little bit, but it looks like the real... He tried getting it. Okay, there we go. That was expensive. Ooh, okay, he decides to cancel the tech as well and switch it out for a Stargate instead. Okay. Alright, Astrea has not been defeated yet, okay? As a matter of fact, that was a very costly Reaper kill, but he did end up getting it there, and he did end up tricking his opponent a little bit. Does this matter, though, against one base Terran? Yeah, a little bit. A little bit. I don't think it's really gonna change the style here that GuMiho wants to go for. He's already got a Cyclone coming up. Command Center here is gonna finish up as well momentarily, but for the time being, at the very least, Astrea will be in a pretty comfortable spot. Okay. Gotta get himself a Marine as well. Cyclone has popped out. That's always a nice bit of information. Is he gonna get the kill? He will get the kill. Should have shaded before engaging that. That's the reason why we normally see a shade pretty much right away. That was actually a bit of a misplay right there from Astrea, who's now gonna go actually into Phoenix play. Alright. Somehow I didn't expect that. I feel like I saw an Oracle on the production tab. Am I losing my mind? I'm actually gonna back up for a second. I feel like I probably did not see an Oracle. But in my mind, this was gonna be an Oracle every time. No. He just started chrono boosting out of Phoenix right from the get-go. Alright, my bad. Back to regular game speed. There we have, what's his name again? Timothy? No. That's the, I don't know exactly the name. I believe this is one of the StarCraft 2 game developers, and whenever a certain texture in the game cannot be found, like for example when you back up in a replay, the clan decals can no longer be found as like a replay file. I guess they added this later on into the development of StarCraft 2, and they've never bug fixed it. But apparently, this is the default placeholder for whenever a texture cannot be found, which I think is kind of a nice Easter egg. Anyways, here comes the drop inside of the main base. We do manage to shut down that lock-on. At this point, of course, Gumi figures out exactly what he's playing against. Medevac ends up going down. How many kills can Astrea or prevent, I guess? Good save. How many kills is GuMiho gonna be able to secure here? Well, honestly, really not that many whatsoever. Good start right here for Astrea for sure, who decides to plant down a third Nexus as soon as that gets shut down. There's a lot more units here available for Gumi as well that aren't really gonna be able to achieve too much, as he's going up actually against Astrea, who's going Phoenixes into, well, charge slots. Okay. That's, of course, okay, nice snipe right there by Gumi. That is, of course, a good strategy, but it is also a bit of a risky one. Because when it doesn't work out, you're in a lot of trouble. Oftentimes we see Phoenixes used as like a leverage to get into Colossi, right? That seems to be the most popular style. But in this particular case, we have a Twilight Council on the back of this. Love that Liberator Siege Shop location here. It's of course a bit risky, but now that the Phoenixes are preoccupied with flying on over towards the main base to try and deal with this, the third Nexus is going to be in all sorts of trouble. Nice movement right here by Gumi, sacrificing one unit right here for the greater good. If he can get that Nexus, that would be absolutely massive. There is, however, going to be the potential for a 2-base all-in here coming up as well for Astrea. Okay, he keeps it alive for now, but it is going to get cancelled here in the end. GuMiho is going to have to sacrifice basically all of these units, and that's quite pricey. But he did shut down that Protoss economy for a long while. A lot of Protoss players right now, rather than building this Nexus, would choose to add on 3 additional gateways instead and just make this a complete all-in. But how in the world do you break this, right? So GuMiho is looking at that. He realizes exactly where he's currently at. Even goes for a missile turret over here too. Maybe the main base is a little bit susceptible. Okay, so what Astrea decides to do here, he's cleaned up most of the attacking units here from the opponent for now. He decides to now treat the entire map as his oyster. He builds up a Nexus. He goes for a Robo. He goes for double Fort as well. This is Astrea saying, okay, I may be in a bit of a spicy spot right now, but I've decided you are not likely to attack me here anytime soon. Because you honestly can't until you get like, well, this is obviously really good, but you honestly can't really with like Stimpack, or without Stimpack and combat shields and all the rest of it. This is an amazing push though here for Gumi. Yeah, there's one random Banshee that shows up again at such an uncommon time. It's gonna wreak absolute havoc over here. Look at this. So much damage being done here by the Terran player. This is GuMiho to a T, man. At the very least, this shield battery has a bunch of energy in it, but that's so much lost mining time. Anyways, what I was trying to say is Astrea is probably thinking here GuMiho can't attack, and as far as like a big army goes, he would certainly be right. He's waiting until the energy runs out. There we go. But this is still, oh, there's another Banshee. This is still a very, very scary, well, Terran harassment, right? Now suddenly, that Stimpack doesn't seem so far away anymore. Now suddenly, the +1 infantry weapons is about to finish up. Now suddenly, we're gonna go for a Ghost Academy already. Does feel a little bit early in the grand scheme of things, but... Anyways, yeah, the upgrades were delayed right now for Astrea, because he couldn't mine. If you're an Astrea fan, this has gotta be a painful series, but if you're a fan of the way that this tricky Terran player is approaching this matchup, we'll probably get a kick out of this one, right? Because this is looking really bad right now for Astrea. Maybe he can stabilize still, right? So he's going into a Robo Bay here, which is nice and all, but now he's playing 3-base versus 3-base. He doesn't really have the worker count either. So normally at this stage in the game, as Terran is taking the third, you kind of already want to see a 4th base for Protoss, but... well, that may be something in the back of Astrea's mind. I mean, yeah, he's gonna go for it right now. It is also very risky. What he really needs is those Colossi, or maybe even Disruptors, or something that can shut down a big Terran attack, because that one is on the horizon. Is Gumi gonna commit to one right now? Doesn't look like it. Gets the EMP off, actually, on the Phoenixes, which is kind of neat. Sometimes it's easy to forget that Phoenixes are spellcasters, so their Graviton Lift ability cannot be used, yeah, unless they actually have energy. So that's kind of a cute little move. Anyways, there's gonna be a big attack coming out of GuMiho here very soon. The question is, when does he go? Right now would be a good time. Right now he could certainly go. Yeah, I don't hate it. He could wait a little bit longer as well. But his army is gonna be big compared to the Protoss. So what Astrea really needs is the lasers. He needs the laser giraffe. It's coming up right now, but it's not here just yet. GuMiho not, yeah, splitting up his units this time around. Instead, what he decides to do is just, okay, we're gonna just abandon this. He decides to just go for a full sledgehammer approach here over at the 3rd base, putting all of his eggs in one basket, and it turns out it's a very large basket, okay? It's a small set of eggs. Actually, what I'm trying to say is that the army is massive, okay? At the very least, the probes got out, so he manages to save the majority of them. But at this point, GuMiho is sitting at 69 workers. Nice. And he shut down that opponent's base. Maybe this little Zealot counterattack can get something done, but we've got the Marines, the Marauders, and the Medevacs reinforcing this. Nice bit of SimCity as well, by the way. You may look at this and think that these depots are built like that randomly. Not the case. He's trying to create little choke points here for those Zealots to get stuck in, and it turns out only 3 SCVs go down. This is going from bad to worse right now here for our Protoss. One thing, though, that he did achieve by sacrificing that Nexus over here for a second time is that he now has the Colossus out. But how many units does he really have? It's really just Zealots and Colossi. A couple Phoenixes, of course, still around as well, but there's not really that many units available here for our... oh my god, EMP again, too. It's not really that many units available here to lift up. Those siege tanks are going to be well protected. There is a big Zealot counterattack going on in the meantime. So he's trying to just charge straight into the Terran's natural. The depots, however, do lift off, and that's going to be the end of that base over here. Well, I guess I was going to call it the fourth, but I'm not even entirely sure if that is the case. He is killing a bunch of SCVs over here, and at the very least, the natural was hurt a little bit. We can continue the elevator play over here for our, well, the Terran player. He could start, yeah, once again, going into the main base. Reminds me of game number 1 of this particular series. Loads of SCVs are going down. Astrea is making the best of a bad situation, but he just doesn't really have the firepower here. He needs to break this. Now, this is the best he can do. We do really need to retarget that Colossus right here onto these soft targets, okay? He is gonna break out of this. In the meantime, though, we're gonna have to recall the units back into the main base, so we're getting here whatever we can. Colossi, of course, can use that cliff walking passive of theirs to go into the main base just like that. 20 probes have gone down. Widowmine over here, actually. Loved that one. We saw that Widowmine burrow. Didn't really look like that big of a deal, but I think in the midst of all that chaos, Astrea must have attempted to put down a Nexus, and obviously if there's a burrowed unit, you can't. So he needs to clean that up first. This has now triggered an all-in right here from Astrea. There's Widowmines in both locations. There's really not a whole lot of staying power for him in this game anymore. So GuMiho, I mean, he even morphed in the orbital command in the middle of all of this. I don't think he really needs that. All he really needs to do is just hold this one all-in right here from Astrea. Our Protoss looks at that army once, he looks at it twice, and he realizes there's no way he's gonna be able to clean that up. And because of that, it's GuMiho who wins a very tricky best of 5 series 3-0.